All right, so in the previous class, we have seen how we can install Node.js, and then we have seen TypeScript compiler, and then we have installed Visual Studio Code Editor. And there are three main components, and also additionally, we have installed TypeScript executor. So also we have seen a simple program. We created a new project inside VS Code Editor, and we created one subfolder, and then we have created simple .ts file, and we have seen how we can execute this file, right? So today we'll focus on some more important concepts. We will start programming concepts basically, and we'll start with the variables. Okay, so today we'll talk about variables. So what is a variable basically? So first of all, let me create a new folder for today's session. Inside the project, I'm just creating new folder. I call it as a day2. Okay, sorry. This is subfolder is got created. Just a moment. Okay, so I'm just going to create a new folder under my project. So select this main project and then click on this new folder. So I say day2. Okay, so now I'm creating a new TS file inside this day2 folder. I call it as a variables.ts. So whenever you create a new TypeScript file, the extension should be .ts. Okay. So now this is a simple file which we created. So first of all, let us start with the variable concept. So what is variable? How many ways we can declare the variable? And what are the differences? Which will we have to prefer to declare the variable? Which option we will prefer? There are many things to discuss. So before that, before starting variables, so let us try to understand about comments. Suppose whenever you write some piece of code, you can just comment or uncomment. So what is the use of comment and uncomment? For example, let's say I create a simple line like this. I'll say console.log and I say welcome. So I have written simple one single line, right? In JavaScript or TypeScript, semicolon is an optional. So normally in Java, whenever you statement is got ended, we put end with the semicolon, right? So in JavaScript or TypeScript, semicolon is a optional at the end of the statement. If you want to keep the semicolon, you can keep it, or else even if you don't put, no problem. Okay, so this is an optional. Okay, so what is comment? In every programming language, we have a something called comment. So whenever, suppose when you execute this code, right? So this statement will be executed. But I don't want to execute this statement. Let's say I have multiple statements like this. And if I execute this file, all the statements by default, they will execute. But I don't want to execute a particular statement or a group of statements I don't want to execute, or I want to ignore them at the runtime. So what you will do, we will simply put a comment. So if I want to comment a single line, then what you will do is says /, 2 slashes is required. So this particular statement won't be executed by TypeScript. This is single line comment. And if you want to comment a multi group of statements, then what you can do, you can simply say single line comment, /, and group of comments, group of statements. If you want to comment, you can say /*, same Java syntax. Okay, /* starting point, and here there is an ending point. So here we do not have a main method. Okay, so don't compare syntaxes with other programming languages. There are certain things are similar, but there are a lot of differences are there. Okay, so here we don't have main methods or nothing. Simple one single statement. If you want to comment single statement, we use //, and if you want to comment a group of statements, use /*. This is starting point, and where you want to end, there you can put //. This is ending point. Okay, so this is simple comment. So what is the use of this comment? So whenever you write a simple code, right? So you can put comment. Like there are two purposes. One is you can improve the readability of the code. Suppose if you have written some piece of code, and if you directly provide that code somebody else, they may not be understand your code. So in that case, you can write simple comment so that they can understand by reading your comment why exactly you have written the code. And another purpose is at the runtime, if you want to ignore a statement or group of statements, we can put them inside the comments. Okay, so this is the manual process. Suppose if you want to comment this through shortcut, let's say this is single statement, I can simply say //. Suppose if you want to use a shortcut, Let's say I have written single line. Now I want to comment this. So what is the shortcut for this? Place the cursor and whichever statement you want to comment and simply say control/. This is a shortcut key. Again, I'm showing it press control key and /. And if you want to remove the comment also, same command. Again, control/. Keeping the comment and then removing the comment. For both, we use the same command called control/. For single line comment, the command is what? Control plus /. That's the shortcut. And for multi-line comment, suppose this is single line comment. So multi-line comment, suppose group of statements if you want to comment, just select the group, whichever statements you want to comment, select all the statements, simply say Alt Shift A or Shift Alt A. Shift Alt A. All statements are commented. Even if you want to remove the comments also, same command. Shift Alt A. Okay, this is a VS Code specific shortcuts. They won't work with Eclipse. Again, Eclipse or any other IDEs, if you go for there will be different shortcuts. So these shortcuts is only for VS Code editor. So Shift Alt A. Again, Shift Alt A. So by keeping the comments and removing the comments, same shortcut. So this is single line comment and multi-line comment. For multi-line or group of statements, if you want to comment, the command is Shift plus Alt plus A. So this is a shortcut. And these two shortcuts works only on Windows. Okay, if you want to go for Mac, so then there is another shortcut we have. Suppose if you want to comment single line instead of control, simply use command button. So command/. If you are working on Windows, control/. If you are working on Mac, he says command/. Even multi-line comment on Windows, Shift Alt A. And if you are working on Mac, then same again, Shift instead of Alt. You will see one new button called Option. Shift Option plus A. So this is for Mac. So these two commands for Mac and these two commands for Windows. Okay. Simple single line comment and then multi-line comment. So this is multi-line comment. Okay. Now a simple concept. So now let us move on to the variables. So if you want to copy this, I'll provide the notes anyway. Later, you guys can refer this. All right. Now, so let us start with the variables concept. I'll try to rename the file comments. So whenever you create a new file, so better start with the uppercase character. So this is a naming convention standard most of the times. Even if you start with the lowercase character, it will work, nothing wrong in that, but that's not a standard. So whenever you create a new file or new folder, start with the uppercase character. Okay. All right. So now let us create another file and I'll call it as a variables demo.ts. Okay. So first of all, what is a variable? What is a variable? What is the definition? So same definition, every programming language, we use variables concept. What is a variable basically? What is the purpose of creating a variable? So variable, simple definition, we can say a variable is a container which can hold some data. Okay, so variable is a container which can hold some data. So at the don't do anything now. Please focus only on the session. Okay, so after completion of the session, start doing the practice. And if you face any issues, we will discuss again in the end of the session. Okay, last 15 to 20 minutes, I will spend some time to discuss the issues. Okay, don't do any practice parallelly. Just listen what I'm saying here. Okay. So what is variable? So variable is basically what? It's simply a container. What container it can holds? Container which can hold or which can store some data. Simple definition. Variable is a container which can hold or store some data. Example, let's say x equal to 10. So what does it mean? Simple expression I have written. X is a variable, 10 is a value. X is a container, which is a variable, which is able to store 10. 10 is a value. So variable and the value. Similarly, I can say name. So here I'll say, let's say student, so name. Here I can say John. So here John is a value, student name is a variable. So most of the times at the beginner, you can just use single character variable like this, like XYZ or ABC, something like this. But once you enter into the projects, don't try to create a variables with the single character. So the variable name is always represent the purpose, actually why we need this variable. So what type of data we are going to store in this variable. So that is exactly represent what is the main objective of creating the variable. Well, say when you see this name of the variable, let's say student name. It is exactly by seeing the variable name, we will understand. Okay. So this particular variable is able to hold name of the student. So whenever you look at the variable name, that should reflect the exact value whatever we are going to store into that, what type of value we are going to store into the variable. But as a beginner, okay, it is okay to create a variables with a single character like xyz and abc. But once you start practicing, once you evolve into programming languages, then try to create a variables with a meaningful name. Okay. So whenever you everything better to create in lowercase characters, especially in the TypeScript. So even variables, okay, and functions, anything, operators, any statements, anything, try to create everything in the lowercase characters. So the beauty of this VS Code editor is even if you try to create in uppercase characters, it will try to convert into lowercase itself. Okay. So everything is a lowercase characters. And even the file names, folder names, everything you can create lowercase character, but that is not a standard. Actually, in the programming standard, we normally start them with the uppercase character. Okay. So this is a variable. So variable is basically what? It's a container which can hold or store some data. Okay. In TypeScript and JavaScript, because as I said, both are almost similar. So syntax is everything is almost similar, but some additional features are there in TypeScript. Okay. So in JavaScript and TypeScript, in both the languages, the variables we can declare by using three different keywords. Okay. So what are those keywords? Where is one keyword, let is another keyword, const is another keyword. So these are the, by using these three keywords, we can create a variables in JavaScript and TypeScript. Where, let, a const. Then what is the syntax? How to create a variable? And one more important thing. So whenever you create a variable, we need to specify the data type also, right? So what is a data type? What type of data we are storing into a variable? For example, let's say I'm saying age. Age is a variable. So what type of data we are entering? Some number. So whenever you enter some number, the data type of this variable is what? It should be a number. So the data type is also we need to specify, right? So in a TypeScript and JavaScript, specifying the data type is optional. Okay, specifying the data type is optional, but still we have a data types. Okay, but even though we have a data types, that is an optional. Okay, so the syntax, how we can create a variable. What is the actual syntax of creating the variable? First, we need to specify the keyword. What is keyword? Keyword is nothing but what? Either it can be where, let, or const, any of the keyword. Then variable name. Variable name space colon. Here we need to specify the data type equal to value. So this is an actual syntax which includes data type also. So example, say, let me show you some example. With the same syntax, keyword. Keyword can be where, let, or const, anything. So let me use a where. What is a variable name? Variable name can be anything. So let's say age colon. What is a data type? What type of data we're storing into the age? Number data type. So simply say number Even for integers and decimals, we have only one single data type in TypeScript and JavaScript, which is a number equal to value. Okay, this is an actual syntax of creating the variable in JavaScript and TypeScript. First keyword, it can be var, let, constant. And the second, we can use any of the keyword and variable name. This is a variable name, number, and 30. So just focus whatever I'm just discussing here. Don't go beyond that. I will cover each and everything. So I'm just introduce a simple data type called number. We have a separate session only on the data types. So there I will discuss what type of data types are available. I'll discuss each and every data type with the demonstrations. Okay. So here focus only on the variables part, how we can declare the variable. So this is the actual syntax. But as I said, the data type is an optional. So here the data type is what? Optional. So this is not mandatory to specify. So without data type, how we can create a variable now? So as I said, data type is optional, right? So how we can create them? Keyword, variable name equal to value. That's it. So this syntax is for including the data type. The second is for without including the data type. Without including the data type. Okay. So today's session, I will mainly focus on this part because we will mainly focus on only variables. How many types of variables we can define, scope of the variables, and what are the main differences between these three keywords. We will mainly focus on only these three keywords today's session. Tomorrow's session, we will focus more on the data types. Okay. So this is a syntax, guys. So keyword, variable name, data type, which is optional, equal to value. And this is a syntax and this is an examples. Okay. Now, let us understand the differences between var, let, const. And where we will use var, where I have to use let, and where exactly we use const. We need to understand the differences between var, let, constant. Okay. So simple, I will create a variable called var some age equal to 30. And this is a variable. Now, if you want to print the value of the variable, then how we can print? What is the print statement in TypeScript and JavaScript? Console.log. Console.log. Simply specify the variable name. Don't put the double quotes here. So when you put the double quotes, then what will happen? This will be treated as a string. And this will print, the output will be as it is, will be printed. For example, let's say I just want to run this, open a new terminal. So how to run the TypeScript directly without compiling? What is the command? What is the command? tsx, tsx space, and on which folder we created this file? Under day2 folder. Specify day2 slash, what is the name of the file? Variables demo. Variables demo dot ts. So this is how we need to run the TypeScript file directly without compilation. So when you run this file, just observe, we will get a age. So when I put this age inside the double quotation, which will be treated as a string, so it is as it is printed. But what is age here? This is a variable. So whenever you want to print the value or whenever you want to retrieve the value from the variable, don't put the double quote. Simply specify the variable name. That's it. Okay. Now, when I execute the same command, you will get the value. Okay. So this is simple. A variable we define and we print the value of the variable. Right. Now, so let us see the differences between var, let, const. Okay. I'm commenting this. Next, var versus let versus const. Very important. And listen this carefully. Var versus let versus constant. So var versus let versus constant. So var is a keyword. Okay, var is a keyword, and we will differentiate these three keywords based on 5 different parameters. Okay, so 5 different aspects, we will differentiate them. So the first aspect is the scope of the variable. The first aspect is what? Scope. Okay, I'll write all the comments here. So first we will differentiate where, let, and const. These 3 keywords based on 5 different aspects. The first aspect is scope of the variable. Second aspect is declaration of the variable. First aspect is what? Based on the scope we can differentiate. Second aspect is declaration. Declaration, which is also called assignment. Value assignment. Declaration or value assignment. The third aspect is redeclaration. Declaration is different, redeclaration is different. So scope, declaration, redeclaration, reinitialization. Reinitialization, which is also called reassignment. Reassignment. And fifth parameter is hosting. Hosting. Okay, these are the 5 parameters we will consider when you differentiate these 3 keywords: where, let, const. Okay, so for each aspect, I'll show you some examples how we can differentiate these 3 keywords with respect to scope, declaration, redeclaration, reinitialization, and hosting. Okay, so declaration. Yeah. So now first thing, when to use where, when to use let, when to use constant. So we will understand this. Where is not recommended to use in modern JavaScript or TypeScript. Where keyword is still there, but it is not recommended to use. Where is not recommended to use. Instead, we will go for the let and then const. So in modern JavaScript and TypeScript, we never use where. First of all, we try to avoid where keyword and we use only let and constant. Why? Because there are certain problems which we have with the where keyword, because it is a functional scope. Let and constant or block scope. Okay, we'll discuss that later. So where is just try to avoid. Okay, so just try to avoid where keyword. So I'll write something here. Where we do not use this in the modern JavaScript and TypeScript, try to avoid where because it has a function scope and can lead to unexpected issues. Whenever you're trying to use where inside the conditional statement and inside the looping statements, that will give unexpected behavior. So whatever the behavior we're expecting, this will give a different behavior. So we try to avoid the where, because in old JavaScript versions, the where is used, but later on, they recommended to don't try to use where keyword because it is a functional scope that will lead the unexpected issues or unexpected behavior. So try to avoid where keyword. That's the first important thing. And when to use let. So let can be used whenever you want to change the values of the variable. For example, let's say here I defined one variable, age equal to 30. So later I want to change the value of this variable. Can we change the value of the variable? Can we change? Suppose initially I have added some value into the variable. So later on, if you want to change, can we change? Yes, that is the meaning of variable, right? Why we call it is a variable? Variable means the value is keeps varies. That is the nature of the variable, right? So whenever you want to change the value of the variable, then define that variable with the const keyword, sorry, let keyword. So whenever you don't want to change the value, let's say that value is constant throughout the program, I never change the value in future. In that case, you can make that variable as a const. Only 2 differences, okay? Whenever you want to change the value of the variable, try to use let. Whenever you don't want to change the value of the variable, then use const. And where, completely avoid this where. We do not use where. Okay, so these are the 3 keywords: where, let, const. Where should be avoid, Let should be used whenever the value is keeps changing. Const is a constant value. So if you assign some value to the variable, but I don't want to change, then make that variable as a const. So these three are the fundamental difference. Don't compare with the Java, guys. This is totally different. So just listen this TypeScript fresh mind. Don't think about Java or Python, any other program. Don't compare like this. That is a that is a main problem. If you already know something, your mind will always compare with that. Okay, each and every programming language is different. Okay, it is a features may be similar, but the way of writing the syntax, way of the writing the code, totally different. So there should not be comparison. Only feature level we will compare. What are the features are there in some programming language, and what are the features are there in this programming. Feature wise we can compare, but the code wise or syntaxes wise we should not compare. Okay, so where should be avoid? Let should be used whenever the value of the variable is keeps changing. Const should be used whenever the value is constant. Okay, so these are the three fundamental things we need to understand. So then we will try to understand the differences based on 5 different factors: scope, declaration, redeclaration, reinitialization, and hosting. Okay, so this is most important. So far everything is clear, guys. Where should be avoid? Let should be used whenever the value of the variable is keeps changing. Const should be used whenever the value is constant. That variable value we should not change. Okay, right. So now let us understand the differences between where, let, const based on 5 different factors. Okay, first let us start with the scope. What is the scope? What is scope? Where exactly we can access the variable. Scope is nothing but the accessible area. Scope is nothing but what? Accessible area or visible area or visibility, whatever. Okay, scope in TypeScript on JavaScript, we have 2 different types of scopes. 2 different types of scopes. In normally other programming language, we have a local, right? Global, like that. But in TypeScript and JavaScript, we have 2 different scopes. One is functional scope. Second is block scope. Functional and block. Functional scope and block scope. These are the only 2 scopes which we have in JavaScript and TypeScript. Functional scope and block scope. Let us try to understand what exactly they are. Functional scope and block scope. Functional scope is nothing but, for example, if I create a function, how to create a function in TypeScript by using function keyword. So later I'll discuss in detail about function. Here just understand how I'm creating function. Let's say function, simple, I'm creating one simple function like this. Suppose if you create any variables inside this function, if you create any variables inside the function, this is called function scope. Okay, block scope is nothing but what? For example, when I use if condition or looping condition, you will write like this. If here you put certain condition, right? And here you will write the piece of code. So this is called as a block. This is called as a block. In this block is available for looping statement also. Suppose if you write any looping statement, let's say if I write for loop or while loop, whatever. So this part is called block scope, functional scope and block scope. There are 2 types of scopes. Okay. And when you look at where keyword, where is a functional scope and let constant, these 2 comes under the block scope. Only within the block we can access the variables. But when you create a variable with a where, we can access that variable within the function, within the functional scope. I'll show you some example, then you can understand it. First thing, functional scope versus block scope. We understood. Functional scope is nothing but within the function. Block scope is nothing but within the block. Let me give you some examples. We are discussing the differences between where, let, constant with respect to scope. Okay, how we can differentiate them. Let us look at the examples now. First example, example 1. When I use where keyword, where is a functional scope. Remember this. Where is a functional scope, whereas let and constant comes under the block scope. Where is a functional scope, let and const comes under the block scope. Okay, remember that. Here I'll put in the bracket. Where comes under the functional scope, and let and const, these two comes under the block scope. Okay, now I'm using where. So what is where? Where comes under what? Which scope? Functional scope. Where comes under functional scope. Let us see the example. Where comes under the functional scope. Let me write a simple function in TypeScript. If you don't understand the functions concept, don't worry. In the coming sessions, I will explain in detailed way. But here I just want to show you the differences. For that, I'm using the function concept. Okay. So if you want to create a function in TypeScript, we use a keyword called function. Function is a keyword. And we need to specify a name of the method. So I'll give some name to the method called, let's say, var scope. Some name, any name you can give. So this is called function. In Java, in TypeScript and JavaScript, we will write a function like this. Now, inside the function, I will create a block also. Simple, I'll put one if conditional block. If I'll put some condition, let's say true. Inside this, I will create a variable with var keyword. Var msg, some message. And here I'll say hello world. One simple variable I created. Just understand this. What I have done here, I just simply created a function. And inside the function also, I created one conditional block. And where I created a variable inside the conditional block. Inside the conditional block. Okay. Now, if you want to execute this function, if you want to call this function, how we will call? Simply like this. So this is how we need to call the function in TypeScript and JavaScript. So when I execute this function, it will call the function and execute the code which we have written inside the function. Okay, this is syntax. All right, so where we created this var variable? Inside the function and also inside the block. And what we are saying here, var is a functional block, var is a functional scope. So var keyword or this variable we can access within the function wherever you want. So after, suppose if you want to print the var here, console.log, I just print message. Will it print the output or not? Can we access this message variable inside the block or not? I define this variable inside the block itself. Also, I'm accessing the variable inside the block itself, right? Will it able to print the output or not? Yes. It will print the output, hello world. So var is basically a functional scope. So even though if you create inside the block, you can access inside the block or inside the function also. For example, if I write this statement outside of the block, will it able to access or not? Here, I come outside of the block. Here I define the variable, but I'm trying to access this variable outside of the block. Still we are able to access here. So when I execute this code, you will get the hello world. Why we are able to access here? Because var is scope is what? Functional. Means what? Even though if you define this variable here or anywhere in this function, you can still access it. You can still access. Why? Because the scope of the var keyword is what? Functional. The scope of the var keyword is what? Functional. So within the function, wherever you want, you can access. Within the block, you can access. Even outside of the block, even the outside of the block, if I'm accessing, that is also still part of the function. So we're able to access it. So that is called functional scope. Within the function, wherever you want, you are able to access. Where is a functional scope. Right. Now, same thing we will repeat for let and const. So then we will see the output. So what I'll do is I will create another example. Example. This is an example 1. And let's go to example 2. So where is a functional scope? Whereas let and constant comes under the block scope. What is block scope? So let us understand. Let me comment this code. Now example 2. I'll write another function. So let and const comes under block scope, right? So same function I'm trying to create. Just observe what is the difference here. So I'm just trying to change here. Uh, let's say block scope and same conditional statement. And what I'll do is instead of where, I'll try to use let keyword. I'm trying to use a let keyword instead of where. Okay, so let msg hello world, and also I will try to create another variable with const keyword. Const greet equal to, I say hello const. I just created two variables where I have created inside the block. Inside the block I created. So let message const greet. Okay, now when I accesses this variable inside this console.log msg console.msg, and also I'm trying to access the variable here greet. So can we access here within the block? So within the block we define the variables. Also I'm trying to access within the block itself, So definitely it will work. So we are able to access it. So it is saved or not. Console.log message, console.log greet. We are not called this function. We just created the function, right? So we need to call this. How to call this? Block scope bracket. Okay, now execute. Yeah, now you can see we are able to capture the values. So whenever you create a let and constant within the block, we're able to access them within the block. This is fine. But if you're trying to access outside of the block, will it able to access or not? Here and here, in both the places, we are able to access. But here, we're able to access or not? What I said beginning, let and const block scope. So they are belongs to only block scope. The scope of let and constant keyword or what? Only block. So what in whichever block we created, what is block here? This is called block, if conditional block. Only within the block we can access. But once you come out from this block, we cannot access. Why? Because they are all block. The scope of let and const keyword is block. But earlier, where keyword, we are able to access. Why? Because where is the functional scope. Wherever you created the where variable, we are able to access throughout the function. Because which is a functional. Scope is functional. Whereas let and const, the scope is what? Within the block. So that is the reason we are able to access let and const only within the block. Outside of the block, we cannot access. So these two examples are clear, everyone. Don't go beyond this concept. So I'll cover each and everything. Just listen. So these two examples are clear. We understood the difference between where let constant with respect to scope. Where is functional scope. Let and const or block scope. I understand the what is the scope. Function scope is different. Block scope is different. As I said beginning, semicolon is an optional in TypeScript and JavaScript. Okay, at the end of the statement, even if you put the semicolon, even if you don't put the semicolon, optional. Okay, so we understood the difference between where let constant with respect to block. Block is nothing but, with respect to scope. Scope is nothing but what? Accessible area. Two different type of scope, functional and block. Where is a functional level scope? Where is a functional scope? And let and const is a block scope. Okay. So now I'll give you another example. You have to tell me that. So let me comment this code. Another example, again, related to scope. Example 3. Example 3. So now I'm writing a simple function again. Just understand. So function, I say scope difference. I'm just written as function. Function name is scope differ. Inside the function, again, I'm writing same conditional statement. If true, and inside this true, I'm creating all three variables with three different keywords. First, var num1 equal to 10. Let num2 equal to 20. Const num3 equal to 30. So I defined three variables inside the block. So can you tell me, can we access these three variables inside this if conditional block? Yes or no? Can we access these three variables inside the if condition? Yes, obviously. Wherever you created the variable, in whichever block you created, you can happily access within the blocks. It can be var let constant, right? So I can say console.log num1. I'm able to access, and then simply I can say num2 and num3. Happily we can access within the block. It can be var let const, no matter. So let me try to execute, and we are not call this function. Let me call it. So now execute. So happily we can access the variables. Now, can we access outside of the block? Suppose I have written like this. Now you tell me. Here commented. Here you tell me. Can we access num1? Yes. Why? Because it is a functional scope. Can we access num2, num3? No, we cannot access. Why? Because they have blocked scope. They have created inside the block. So even the TypeScript is giving an error. If I put the error, what it is saying, cannot find name num2, cannot find name num2, cannot find name num3. It is not able to find. Why? Because the num2 and num3 is created inside the block. Inside the block. Only inside the block we can access. Whereas the num1 is a var keyword we created, which is functional. So within the function, everywhere we can access. So we can access this. Cannot access, and this is also cannot access. Why we cannot access? Because it is a block scope. This is also block scope, and this is functional scope. So that's what we can access. Okay, now everybody's understood with this difference based on the scope, how we can differentiate them. Okay, so var is not recommended because of it is a functional scope. Yes. So var is not recommended because of it is a functional scope. So later on, I'll show you more examples why we should not use var. Okay. So this example is clear. The first we discussed, the first point is what? Based on the scope, we differentiated var let const. Scope is nothing but how many scopes? There are two scopes. One is functional scope, second is block scope. Okay. So whenever you write something like this, open brace and curly brace, that is called as a block. That is called as a block. Okay, and here the function, this is called function block. Okay, here the function is started, here is end. This is called scope of the function, and the entire part is the body within the function we created. And this is called block. Okay, it can be conditional statement or it can be looping statement, anything, but this is basically a block. Okay, just try to understand this with very high level, because we haven't still discussed about functions, conditional statement, loops and everything. But even if you're not understood this, no problem. So we will try to understand them with the other aspects. So scope, functional scope and block scope. Var is comes under, what is the scope of the var? Functional. What is the scope of the let and constant? Block. Okay, so remember this point. This is the first thing. Now go to the next aspect. The next aspect is what? We can differentiate var let constant with respect to declaration or value assignment. So let us see this point. So let me comment this code. Now, second, declaration and value assignment. With respect to declaration, value assignment, we will see the differences between var, let, and constant with respect to declaration and value assignment. So let me give you one example. Example 1. I defined one variable called x. I'm not assigned any value. Can we do like this? Without assigning the value, can we create a variable? Yes, no problem at all. So when I use var keyword, we can declare the variable. This is called declaration. Okay, just a declaration. We can declare the variable without initialization. Initialization is nothing but what? If I add some value, which is initialization. If you just declare the variable, if you just specify only variable, which is called declaration, when you assign some value into the variable, that is called initialization. So declaration, initialization, you need to understand the difference. Declaration is nothing but just have only one variable, no value. Initialization is nothing but we assign some value into the variable. That is called initialization. So when I create a variable with the var keyword, we can simply declare like this without initialization. It is possible. So var can be declared without initialization. Okay, we declared a variable without initialization. But what is the data type of this variable? So as I said beginning, TypeScript is a statically typed programming language. And even if you're not assigned any value into the variable, by default, there should be some value, right? Suppose if I say 10 here equal to 10, then x becomes a number. Based on the value, TypeScript will assign the data type to the variable. But if I don't assign any value into this, then what type it is assigned? Let's try to print. When I print this x, console.log x, will it print something or will it throw any error? When I run this code, it will just print undefined. So it is giving some error. Sorry, just a second. Var x console.log x. Let me run it again. So this is day 2. Okay, so let's see the error. Sorry. File name is different. So variables demo. Day 2 / variables demo. See, undefined. So what does it mean? Undefined is nothing but what? So just we declare the variable. If I don't assign any value or without initialization, this is simple undefined. So when you put the cursor here, what it is saying? Any. TypeScript is assigned some data type into this. What is the type? Any. Any is one of the type, just like number, string. Any is another type. Any is nothing but whatever data we want, you can keep it into the variable. Why? Because if you just put the number here, so then TypeScript will treat this as a number data type. You can see it is popping up. Similarly, if you put something, a string into this, then TypeScript will consider this as a string. Suppose if you don't put anything, then we can store any value into this. It can be number, we can store number, we can store string, any type. So that is the reason TypeScript is assigned any data type here. So when I try to print the value of x, it is simply say undefined. Undefined. Okay. Now let us understand the same behavior for let keyword and const keyword. What it will do. So it is printed undefined. Now can we assign value into the x? Can we assign the value into the x? Yes. Let me assign some value. Let's say 30. Now again, I'm printing the value of x, console.log x. So here we are just declaring the variable. Here we are initializing the variable. So here this is called declaration. And here we are saying initialization. Okay, declaration, initialization. So when by using var keyword, we can create a variable without initialization. We can declare the variable without initialization. So this is called declaration. This is called initialization. Okay. Or we can also combine them. We can simply say where x equal to 30, that combines both initialization, declaration and initialization. This is where keyword behavior. So when I execute this, it will print the value of x. Initially, it is undefined because we haven't assigned any value into x. After that, we assign some value. We initialized some value. Then we got a value here. Same thing we will try to repeat for let and const keyword. Okay, then we will see that. So another example. Example 2. So let also can be declared without initialization. So just like a where, let also can be declared without initialization. Same, how exactly where is worked here? Same, let also work in the similar way. So let me just create, copy this. So now I just copied the same code. Let's create another variable with the let keyword. So let I'm taking another variable called y. This is called declaration and I'm just printing without adding any value. Now I'm assigning some value and again then printing. Okay. So now you can tell me what is an output here. Just like how where is executed, same way, same behavior we have for let keyword also. So by using let, we can declare the variable without initialization. It is possible. So when I print the value y, again, it will give you undefined. It will give you undefined. And after that, we assign some value in it. So it is printed. So with respect to declaration and value assignment, where and let both are similar. Okay, where and let both are having same kind of a behavior. We will able to create a variables without having any without having any initialization. In other words, we can declare the variable without initialization. Okay. Now, when you come to the const, is not possible like this. So example 3, const. When I use const, you must initialize the value into the variable. At the time of declaration itself, you have to initialize the value into the const. Otherwise, not accepted. So let me show you an example. Const must be initiated. Const must be initialized at the time of declaration. At the time of declaration, you have to assign the value. You need to initialize the value. So let's see that. So I'm declaring a variable const jed. See, it is giving an error. What is the meaning of const? Why, where we will, when we will use const, the value of the variable should not change. In other way, we can say the value is always constant, right? In that case, we use const. But here, we just create a variable. We haven't assigned any value. But when you use const, we have to assign the value. We have to initialize the value. Otherwise, not accepted. So this will give you an error. So if you try to print the value, console.log jed. So what you are expecting here? Previously, we got undefined. But here, what you will get? An output. You will see the error. You will see the error. What it is saying? It is saying trigger uncatch exception. Transform fail with one error. Okay, so if you get an error here, this is called runtime error. If you see the error here itself, you can see it is intimating us. This is called compile time error. So before executing your code here itself, you can notice, okay, it is giving some incorrect. So here it will show you the message. So when I use const, you must initialize the data. You must initialize or you need to assign the data into the const. Otherwise, not possible. So this is incorrect. Okay, but what is the correct? Const z equal to, you should put some value in it. So this is correct. So when I execute this, this will just print the value of z. 50 is got printed. Okay. So this is the difference between where let constant with respect to Declaration, second point. We understood about the scope. We understood about the declaration or value assignment. So when you create a variable with a var and let keyword, just a declaration is enough. No need to specify the value. When you use const keyword, the value must be assigned. The value must be assigned. Clear, everyone? So the second point. So we understood the differences between var, let, constant with respect to declaration. Okay, please confirm in the chat box, everyone. Second point, given 3 examples. So var and let keyword, we can just create a variable without initializing the value. But when I use const keyword, you have to assign the value. Otherwise, it will throw an error. Okay, fine. Now, let us see the third point, redeclaration. We understood about the declaration. Now, what is redeclaration? Redeclaration. Third point, redeclaration. So what is redeclaration? So redeclaration behavior. Again, we will see all the keywords, var, let, constants. So var keyword allows a redeclaration, whereas let and const not allows the redeclaration. Let and const not allows the redeclaration. Only var keyword allows the redeclaration. Let's see the example. Example 1. Var allows the redeclaration. Var allows the redeclaration. What is redeclaration? Example. I'll create a one variable var city equal to, let's say, New York, some city. Okay. Var city equal to New York. I just created one variable. Again, if you try to create the same variable with the same type, let's say var, again I say city. This time I'm trying to change. I say Los Angeles. Is it possible or not? This is called redeclaration. Redeclaration in the sense what? Whatever variable we created or whatever variable we declared, same variable again we written one more time, which is called redeclaration. So when I use var keyword, the variable can be redeclared. Redeclared. It is allowed. Okay, now when I print this value, console.log of city, what is the value will be printed? What is an output you're expecting? New York or Los Angeles? Los Angeles, obviously, right? Because the whatever first value we have assigned to the city, it is replaced with the new value. So the redeclaration is possible with a var keyword. Actually, this is the problem by using var keyword. This is not safer because suppose you define one variable, you declare the variable. Once you declare the variable, that variable should have a same type throughout the programming. You should not keep on declare the variable again and again. Okay. So the redeclaration is allowed with the var keyword. So because of that problem, we should not use var. There's a problem. It's not type safety. TypeScript is introduced only for TypeScript is type safety concept. Okay, if you create a variable or if you declare the variable, if you are able to redeclare the variable multiple times, that is again deviating the type safety concept. So that's the reason we are not recommending var keyword. So here it is allows the redeclaration, but let const, those T keywords not allowed the redeclaration. Let us see another example. So let const not allowed redeclaration. Example 2. Let is allowed or not? Let not allowed. Not allowed redeclaration. See the example. So by using let keyword, I'm creating the variable. So let's say let country is equal to, let's say, India. Okay, just define the variable with the let keyword. And let us try to redeclare it. Let again country equal to, I say, US. See, it is giving an error. So redeclaration is not possible by using let and const keyword. Whereas redeclaration is possible with the var keyword. So redeclaration is nothing but what? Same variable. We will again redeclare one more time. So here it is giving an error. Cannot redeclare block scoped variable country. Why it is block scoped? Because it's a let. Wherever you see let, which is a block scoped. Wherever you see var, that is a function scoped. Okay. So yes, in the TypeScript, we never use this redeclaration. Okay, so this is actually the deviating the actual concept. Means this is not type safety. If you redeclare the variable multiple times, that is a deviating the type safety concept, which is comes from TypeScript. Okay, so that's the reason the redeclaration is not allowed using let keyword. Can we print the value? Can we print the value of the country? No, because it is clearly given the compile time error, right? So if given the compile type error, how come we can run this code? Obviously, this will give an error. Okay, so redeclaration not allowed by using let keyword. Redeclaration not allowed. In case of const also, same thing. Example 3, another example. Const. Const is also not allowed. Not allowed redeclaration. Const is also not allowed redeclaration. And here there is another reason. I'll tell you. Let me create another variable const planet equal to some value I'm assigning. So const planet equal to earth. Planet is a variable, earth is a value. I defined this with a const. Can we create this variable without value like this? Can we create the variable like this without assigning the value by using const? Yes or no? No. In the previous example I have seen, right? When I use const keyword, you must assign the value. You must initialize some value. Otherwise, not allowed. So we assign some value. Okay. So what is the meaning of const? When we will go for const, if the value of the variable should be constant, it is a fixed, should not change the value. In that case, we use constant. But if you create the variable one more time, what is the meaning in it? There is no meaning, right? So again, if you try to change the value, let's say Mars, error, this is not possible. So by using const keyword is also redeclaration not possible. Redeclaration not possible. So again, if you try to print this, this will give you an error. Okay, so only with the var keyword, redeclaration is possible or redeclaration is allowed. By using let and const keyword, redeclaration is not allowed. Redeclaration is not allowed. Okay, so this is the third aspect. So first aspect is what? We have seen the differences with respect to the scope. Then we have seen the differences with respect to the declaration. Without assigning the value, we can simply declare. And also redeclaration. Var keyword, by using var keyword, we can redeclare the variables possible. By using const or let keywords, we cannot redeclare the variables. This is the third aspect. Okay. Now, fourth aspect, reinitialization or reassignment. Reinitialization or reassignment. Initialization is nothing but what? Initialization. Assign the value into the variable, which is called initialization. We already seen declaration in setting the value, right? So what is the difference between these three keywords at the time of initialization, reinitialization, or reassignment? By using var and let keywords, reassignment is allowed. Var and let keywords, reassignment is allowed. Const reassignment not allowed. Why? Reassignment is the base feature for variables, right? Whenever you create a variable, assign some value, you can change the value at any time. That's the nature of the variable. So reassignment is always possible in the variables. Like it can be var keyword or it can be let keyword. The changing the values are always possible, except the const keyword. Why? Because const is only meant for what? Constant values. So when I create a variables with var and let, we can change the values whenever you want. That's called reassignment. But when I create a variable with the const keyword, not possible to reassign the value. Why? Because the value of the const variable is always constant. Always constant. Okay. So let me give you an example. Example 1. Where allows reassignment. Reinitialization or reassignment. Let's create a variable. Let's say where age equal to, let's say, 25. Now, if you want to change the value of the age, how can change? How can we change? Do we need to declare the variable again like this? Is it necessary to define the where again for the age? No, because we already declared here. We already declared. So just I want to change the value. So simply can say age equal to 30. This is called reinitialization. We already initialized some value here, but again we are reinitializing here or reassigning here. So this is allowed. Even in the let also it is allowed. So when I say console.log, if I print age, so this will print the value. So which value it will print? 25 or 30? Latest value. So 30 will be printed. Okay. Same thing is applicable for let also. Example 2. Same thing is applicable for let also. So whenever you want to change the values of the variable, you can always do it. So let also allows reassignment. So instead of where, I'm taking let. And here I'm changing the value. Again, I'm printing the value. So by using let also, we can reassign the value. So this is also allowed. But const won't allow. Why? Because the value of the constant variable is always fixed, which should not change it. Const not allows reassignment. So instead of let, I'm using const here. Here it is okay. Const age equal to 25. So let me just comment here first. Okay, so here it is okay. We define some variable and assign some value. But what I'm doing here, I'm trying to change the value of age. Because it is a constant, we cannot change the value of the constant variable. So here it is not allowed. Not allowed. And it is clearly giving compile time error. Cannot assign to age because it is a constant. It is a constant. Okay. So in case of where and let, we can reassign the data. Whenever you want to change the values, you can keep on changing. Whereas const keyword or const variable data, we should not change. We cannot change. So this is the differences between where, let, constant with respect to reinitialization or reassignment. And final one, hosting behavior. So far we have seen 4 different aspects. I'll give the complete table. You can easily understand the differences at the end of the session. Okay. So far we have seen 4 different aspects with respect to scope, declaration, redeclaration, reinitialization. Now hosting. What is hosting means? So let me show you an example. So what is hosting? Anybody having any idea what is hosting? 5th aspect, hosting behavior. So based on the hosting, we can compare 3 things: where, again let, and const. Okay, so let me give you a simple example. You tell me the output. Okay, so I'm just writing console.log a. Console.log a. After that, I will define variable called a equal to 10. Again, I will print console.log of a. Can you tell me output of this? See, first, without declaring the variable and without assigning the value, I'm just directly printing the value of a. In the first statement itself, After that, I'm creating the variable and assign the data. And again, I'm trying to print the value of A. This is my code. So what is hosting means? Without declaring and assigning the variable into, without declaring the variable or assigning the data into the variable, we are trying to access here. Actually, we created variable after the first statement. Here we created. But we are trying to access this A before declaration. Before declaration. That's called hosting. Okay. So what could be the output here when I execute this? When I try to access it, see the output. Undefined. It is giving undefined. Observe very carefully. It is giving undefined. It is just giving undefined because we haven't defined A. Before this statement, we haven't defined A. We haven't declared and we have assigned. So it is giving undefined. And same statement, if you print after declaration and assignment, obviously this will print the output, which is 10. So this is our expected behavior, right? So before declaring and assigning the variable, if we just print the variable like this, it is saying undefined in case of where. In case of where. Okay, that's the first example I'm saying here. So here, when I create a var variable hosted with the undefined, it is returning undefined here, undefined. Okay, so moving variable declaration to the top of their scope. Yes, this is a variable actually. We haven't defined actually. We haven't created this variable. We haven't assigned any data. We just printing A. Right? TypeScript doesn't know about this A. So that's the reason simply it is returning undefined. In case of where. Now observe this carefully. So this is another example I'll tell you. Same thing I'll repeat. Instead of where, here I'll say let. Okay, so this is the first example. You understood this code, right? So same code I repeating here using let keyword. Okay, now you tell me what is an output you will get here. Previously, when I use where, undefined is returned. Now when I'm using let, what you will get here? It is giving an error. It is not undefined actually. This time it will throw an error. See, it is throwing an error. So what does it mean? Where is hosted with undefined. Let and const is hosted with what? Hosted with not initialized. So you can see before initialization, cannot access A before initialization. So initialization error you will get. So that is a reason. That's the main difference between where and let constant. Hosting is nothing but what? Before declaring the variable or before assigning the data into the variable, if you're trying to access the variable, in case of where, it is written undefined. In case of let, it defined not initialized. It returned not initialized. Same behavior for const also. So just comment this. So instead of let, I simply say const and then execute the code. Same error. Not initialized. Okay. So what does that mean? What we understood based on that? Where is hosted with undefined. So when I create a where variable, if I'm trying to access before declaration, which will return undefined. But when I create a variable with a let or const and access them before declaring them, then they return not initialized. So that is a differences with respect to hosting. So these are the 5 parameters we always consider when you discussing the differences. The first aspect is scope. Scope is nothing but what? Function scope and block scope. So where is a function scope, whereas let and const are block scope. So declaration means what? Without having any value. Let keyword and where keyword. So declaration is possible without having a value. But const declaration along with the value we need to provide because which is a constant. So redeclaration is possible for where and let, but constant not possible. So reinitialization is possible for let and where, but const it is not possible. So when you come to the hosting aspect, where keyword will return undefined, whereas let and const keywords will return not initialized. So these are the differences. So let me summarize this so that you can understand better. So whatever scopes we have discussed so far, scope wise, where is what? Function scope. Let and const, block scope. And declaration wise, where is not mandatory. Value assignment and declaration. So do we need to assign the value at the time of declaration? Is it mandatory for where? No. Let is also not mandatory. But in case of const, it is mandatory. At the time of declaration itself, we have to specify the value into the variable. So in case of const, it is mandatory. And redeclaration is allowed in where? Yes, is allowed. But in the let and const, redeclaration is not allowed. And reinitialization is allowed in where and let, but in the const, reinitialization is not allowed. Why? Because const value is always constant. So we cannot reinitialize the value. Right? So when you create a variable with where, and before creating, when you access the variable, it will throw undefined. Whereas in let and const keyword, it will throw not initialized. That's called hosting. And try to avoid the where. Why? Because in two different aspects. In the two different reasons, we need to avoid the where. The first thing is function scope. When the where is comes under the function scope, the behavior will be different. Okay, so that is cause unexpected behavior. So that is the reason we should avoid where. That's the one reason. Second reason is redeclaration is allowed. Again, that is not type safety. That is again deviating the type safety concept provided by TypeScript. So that is the reason redeclaration is allowed by using where keyword. So that's the reason we should avoid. Okay, because of these two reasons. And which one best to use? Let. And if the values are constant, then go with const. If the values are keeps changing, then go to let keyword. If the values are constant and don't want to change, then go with the const keyword. So these are the only two keywords are preferable to use in TypeScript. Okay, so these are all about the variables concept. Now I'll share this document. I created each and everything. By scope, I differentiated, and with respect to declaration, I have given the tables also. You can clearly look at and understand what exactly, whatever we discussed in our session, everything is mentioned here. This is the table. And finally, these are the important things we need to understand. Where keyword, scope is what? Functional. Can be redeclared and reinitialized. Assigning the value at the time of declaration is optional. And when it comes to the let keyword, scope is what? Blocked. Cannot redeclared. Cannot be redeclared. And scope can be reinitialized. Same within the same scope, we can reinitialize. Reinitialize in the sense the value can be changed, but redeclaration not possible. Assigning the value at the time of declaration is also optional. But when you come to the const keyword, it is also block scoped. Redeclaration, reinitialization is not possible. And assigning the value at the time of declaration is mandatory. Okay, so should avoid where. Why? Because it can cause unexpected bugs due to function scope. Use let when the variable needs to change later. Use const for values that should never change. So these are the points you need to remember. So I give the table, and if I look at the table, you will get the complete clarity. So what are the variables? What are the keywords we prefer to use in TypeScript? Let, const. If the values are keeps changing, go with let. If the values are constant, then go with the const. Okay. So this is all about a variables concept. And data types I have not introduced today. Tomorrow's session, we will discuss about variables along with the data types. Okay, so data types is also provided, but they are optional to specify. As I said at the beginning, so we can create a variable like this by specifying the data type, and without specifying the data type also, we can create a variable. So specifying the data type is optional. That different data types are there. In the next class, we will try to understand the differences. Yes. So we don't use host. Okay. So why I'm taking that aspect? Because if you try to access the variable without a declaration, then what is the behavior of where and let const that I want to show you. So that's the reason I'm taking that aspect, hosting concept. Okay. But we never do that actually. Without declaring the variable and assigning the value, how can we access it? No, right? So that is not. All right, so I'll share these notes and everything, do one round of practice. And after that, based on today's concept, first do practice, one round of practice. And after that, I will give you some quiz here based on only today's topic. I'll upload this document and go through each and every question and try to find the answer with these questions. And at the end of the document, I also given the answers for every question, and just check with yourself, okay, how you're able to understand the concept. First do practice, and if you have any confusion, just try to watch the video one more time, and then try to attempt this quiz. So this is based on today's concept only. Okay, so that's all for variables concept. Tomorrow we will continue that.